Imagine a courtroom trembling on the edge of chaos, where the air crackles with the kind of tension that could spark a fire with a single wrong word, a place where justice teeters between reverence and ruin. In the heart of Denver, Colorado, the Jefferson County Courthouse stands as a gray stone monolith, its polished halls echoing with the weight of law and the whispers of power. On a crisp October morning, the clock strikes 9:27 a.m., and the heavy oak doors swing open with a sharp creak, revealing Congresswoman Elise Morgan, a 38-year-old force of nature, her heels striking the tile like a metronome of defiance. She's late 12 minutes past the scheduled hearing time, an anomaly for a woman known for precision, but the delay wasn't her choice. Just moments ago, she'd been locked in a classified call with the House Judiciary Committee, grappling with a whistleblower's report on migrant detention abuses in southern Colorado, a crisis she couldn't turn away from, not when lives hung in the balance. The room known among locals as Harrigan's Hammer for Judge Victor, Harrigan's brutal reputation falls silent as she enters, every eye swiveling to her like moths to a flame. Harrigan, a grizzled 62-year-old, with a face carved from years of scowling and a voice that could curdle milk, leans forward from the bench, his gavel poised like a hawk's talon. His courtroom is his kingdom, a place where young lawyers tremble and first-time offenders shrink, and he relishes it, his furrowed brow deepening as he flips through papers with a theatrical disdain that borders on performance. "Well, well," he drawls, his tone dripping with mockery. "Congresswoman or not, punctuality matters in my courtroom." Elise stands tall, her navy blazer sharp against the muted tones of the room, her dark eyes unflinching as she adjusts her lapel, her voice cutting through the hush like a blade through silk. "Your Honor, I apologize for the delay. I was detained by an urgent call from—" "I'm not interested in your excuses," Harrigan interrupts, his voice a whip crack, slamming his gavel once with a force that reverberates through the oak-paneled walls. "Contempt of court, $500 fine." Gasps ripple from the back benches, where reporters scribble furiously, their pens racing to capture the moment as it spirals into something electric. Elise raises a brow, her jaw tightening, but her composure holds a steel forged through years. She's a civil rights attorney and a rising star in Congress. "Are you fining me for being 12 minutes late, due to an emergency tied to my congressional duties?" she asks, her tone steady, a quiet challenge that slices through his bluster. Harrigan's lips curl into a thin, venomous smile, his eyes glinting with a predator's glee. "I'd fine anyone who disrespects this court," he snaps, leaning back as if daring her to push further. The tension thrums like a live wire, a current pulsing through the gallery, the bailiffs, the clerks, everyone can feel it, a clash not of law but of wills, personal and raw. The reason for her presence is almost laughably small. A traffic citation flagged under her name by a clerical glitch in the city's vehicle registry. A mix-up tied to a congressional staff car she'd never driven. She'd chosen to appear in person, not send an aide. A deliberate stand to face the system as her constituents do, to prove no one's above the law, not even her. But what should have been a 5-minute formality has erupted into a spectacle. A stage where Harrigan's gavel meets Elise's resolve, and the stakes climb higher with every word. She steps to the podium, her heels echoing in the stunned silence, her voice calm but unyielding. "May I speak, Your Honor?" "Speak by all means," Harrigan mocks, leaning back in his chair, arms crossing like a king granting an audience to a jester. "Entertain us." Elise's expression doesn't waver, her dark eyes locking onto his with a clarity that pierces. His bravado. "Your Honor, I've served as a civil rights attorney and a legislator. I know courtroom protocol inside out. I also know judicial discretion and how it's wielded unevenly based on age, race, or status." A low murmur of agreement ripples through the gallery, heads nodding, phones discreetly recording as her words land like stones in still water. Harrigan's eyes narrow, his voice dropping to a cold, calculated edge. "You're skating close to another contempt charge, Representative. And you're skating close to violating the Code of Judicial Conduct," Elise counters, her tone razor sharp. specifically Canon 3B5, which addresses bias and prejudice. Perhaps you're familiar? The room freezes. A stunned silence, blanketing the benches, even the bailiff shifting uncomfortably as Harrigan's face flushes, his thin laugh a mask for the shock beneath. You think you can march in here and lecture me about ethics? He hisses, his gavel twitching in his hand. I think if someone doesn't, Elise replies, her voice steady as steel, you'll keep bullying defendants who can't fight back. The gallery ignites whispers, gasps, a tide of engagement swelling as her words strike a chord, a match lit in a room long choked with fear. Outside, the storm brews her comms director, Rachel Evans, fields calls from local media, the buzz already, spilling onto the courthouse steps. Inside, Harrigan slams his gavel twice, his voice a snarl. Get out of my courtroom. Elise doesn't blink. Gladly, she says, turning on her heel, her phone buzzing as she strides out a text from a former clerk. You're not wrong about him. I have records. The doors close behind her, but the battle's just begun, a spark poised to set the system ablaze. Step into the aftermath of a courtroom clash where the air still crackles with the echoes of defiance, a battlefield where a single stand has ignited a fire that refuses to die. In Denver, Colorado, the Jefferson County Courthouse looms under a graying sky, its stone walls a silent witness to the morning's eruption as Congresswoman Elise Morgan strides out into the crisp October air, her navy blazer a sharp contrast to the chaos swirling around her. At 38, she's a force unbroken, her heels click against the steps, her dark eyes blazing with a resolve that's turned a minor traffic glitch into a seismic confrontation with Judge Victor Harrigan. The $500 contempt fine slapped on her for a 12-minute delay, tied to a congressional emergency, still rings in her ears. Harrigan's mocking, "Entertain us." A lash she'd met with a quiet, cutting truth. You'll keep bullying those who can't fight back. Now, as she steps into a sea of cameras and microphones, that truth is a spark fanning into flame. The courthouse plaza buzzes, reporters jostle, their shouted questions a cacophony. Congresswoman, what's next? Will you fight the fine? While protesters gather, their signs bobbing like waves. Justice isn't ego, we see you, Elise. Her phone vibrates incessantly. Rachel Evans, her comms director, texting updates. Local media's on fire. City councilor says they've waited for someone to take him on. Elise pauses, her breath steadying, her gaze sweeping the crowd as she raises a hand, silencing the clamor with a presence that commands without shouting. I was held in contempt today for being 12 minutes late due to a congressional emergency, she says, her voice clear, resonant, cutting through the noise like a blade through fog. But the real contempt is what happens here every day to young people, to black and brown defendants, to those without privilege. Today, we start asking questions. The crowd erupts, cheers, murmurs, a tide of support swelling as cameras flash, capturing a moment poised to break wide open. Inside the courthouse, in the mahogany-paneled chambers of Judge Victor Harrigan, the air seethes with a different heat, rage, bitter and raw, as the 62-year-old paces behind his desk, his furrowed brow deepening into a scowl that could crack stone. His clerk, Dana, a young woman with wide eyes and a nervous hunch, stands silent, her presence shrinking as he snaps. At the empty room, she thinks this'll scare me, he hisses, tossing a legal pad across the desk, papers fluttering like wounded birds. A few reporters, a couple tweets, she thinks that'll unseat 30 years of judicial authority? His phone buzzes relentlessly. Calls from the Judicial Conduct Commission, the state bar, ignored as he wheels on Dana. They called? She nods, her voice a whisper. The commission wants a statement about this morning, and the bar emailed about your waste of time. Comment. His eyes blaze, his fist slamming the desk. Get me that hearing transcript unedited now. Across town in Elise's Denver district office, the atmosphere crackles with purpose. A war room alive with the hum of laptops and the clink of coffee cups, a quiet storm brewing under fluorescent lights. She sits at the head of a long table, her blazer shed, her sleeves rolled up, Flanked by legislative staff, legal advisors, and 2 former public defenders she's trusted since her early law days, Terrence and Marissa, their faces etched with determination. "I've filed the misconduct inquiry," Elise says, her voice steady, her dark eyes sharp as she leans forward. "But anecdotes won't cut it, we need patterns. Sentencing disparities, gender bias, racial profiling, anything with Harrigan's name on it. Docket data, transcripts, everything." Terrence nods, his fingers flying over his keyboard. "I'm cross-referencing dismissed motions and overruled. Objections past 5 years, there's a spike, especially under 30 defendants." Rachel chimes in, her phone buzzing. "Media's all over it, MSNBC, CNN, The Hill. Do we go public?" Elise doesn't hesitate. "We go public strategically. This isn't just me, it's a microcosm of systemic rot. We tell that story." Outside, the courthouse swarms protesters chant, their signs stark against the gray stone. Power isn't above scrutiny. Justice for all, while the press feeds off the frenzy. Headlines already blazing. Congresswoman held in contempt by controversial judge. Inside, Harrigan doubles down, opening his afternoon session with a chilling address, his voice steady, his eyes cold as he glares at the stunned room. "This morning, this courtroom's decorum was undermined by political grandstanding," he declares, his gavel poised. "Let me be clear, this bench isn't a stage, this gavel isn't a prop. The next person to confuse either will feel the full weight of my authority. The threat hangs like a fog, but each word cracks the marble pedestal he stands on, a defiance that only fuels the fire Elise has lit." That night, she meets quietly with Terrence and Marissa, former clerks under Harrigan, their faces taut with caution but resolute. "You're right," Marissa says, her voice low. "He berates public defenders, overrules them to prove a point, gives harsher sentences if a defendant speaks back even slightly." Elise leans in, her gaze piercing. "Did you report it?" "Every time," Terrence replies, his jaw tight. No response. Elise's jaw sets, a quiet fury simmering beneath her calm. "That ends now," she says, her voice a vow, a spark poised to ignite a reckoning that's been years in the making. Picture a city teetering on the edge of uproar, where the air hums with the electric buzz of a storm about to break, and every whisper carries the weight of a shout poised to shatter silence. In Denver, Colorado, the Jefferson County Courthouse stands like a fortress under siege, its gray stone facade bathed in the pale light of an October afternoon, the steps swarming with a growing throng of protesters clutching signs that dance. In the wind, justice isn't a gavel's toy. Elise speaks for us. Inside, the echoes of Congresswoman Elise Morgan's morning clash with Judge Victor Harrigan still reverberate through the oak-paneled halls, her defiant, "You'll keep bullying those who can't fight back," a spark that's ignited a fire now spreading beyond the courtroom's walls. At 38, Elise has turned a $500 contempt fine into a rallying cry, her navy blazer a banner of resistance as she strides from that battle into a war she's only begun to wage, her dark eyes blazing with a resolve that could topple giants. The time, Courthouse Plaza pulses with life reporters jostle for angles, their cameras flashing like lightning, capturing the swell of voices chanting her name, while inside, Harrigan's chambers seethe with a different heat. The judge, 62, paces behind his mahogany desk, his furrowed brow etched deeper with every step, his voice a low growl snapping at the air as his clerk, Dana, shrinks against the wall, her wide eyes darting nervously. "She thinks this'll scare me," he snarls, hurling a legal pad across the room, its pages fluttering like fallen leaves in the storm of his rage. "A few tweets? Some bleeding heart reporters she thinks that'll unseat 30 years on this bench?" His phone buzzes incessantly, calls from the Judicial Conduct Commission, the state bar, piling up unanswered as he wheels on Dana. His face flushed. "They called again?" She nods, her voice a whisper swallowed by his fury. "The commission wants a statement the bar's asking about your waste of time remark." His fist slams the desk, a crack splitting the silence. "Get me that transcript unedited now." Outside, the world shifts, protesters swell, their signs stark against the gray stone. Power isn't above scrutiny, justice for all while news vans line the street, headlines already blazing across screens. Congresswoman's contempt sparks outrage. Elise's words from the courthouse steps, "The real contempt is what happens here every day," have struck a chord. A match tossed into dry grass and the fire's spreading fast. In her Denver district office, she's 3 steps ahead, her war room. A hive of quiet intensity. Laptops glow, coffee cups litter the table, her team a constellation of sharp minds orbiting her steady core. She sits at the head, sleeves rolled up, her voice cutting through the hum. "The misconduct inquiry's filed," she says, her dark eyes sharp. "But we need more patterns, data, not just stories. Sentencing gaps, bias, anything with Harrigan's name. Dig into dockets, transcripts, everything." Terrence, her legal researcher, nods, his fingers flying over keys. "I'm pulling dismissed motions, overruled objections 5 years back. There's a spike, especially with defendants under 30. Rachel, her comms director, glances up from her buzzing phone. Media's exploding: MSNBC, CNN, The Hill, Nationals. Calling. "We go public?" Elise leans forward, her resolve a steel thread. "We do strategically. This isn't about me, it's a window into the rot everywhere. We frame it that way." The room hums with purpose, a machine grinding into gear. As the stakes climb higher, each move a brick in a case she's building not just against Harrigan, but against a system he's come to embody, a system she's vowed to crack open. Back at the courthouse, Harrigan doubles down, his afternoon session a stage for his defiance. He strides to the bench, his black robe a cloak of authority, his voice steady as he glares at the room. This morning, this courtroom's decorum was undermined by political grandstanding, he declares, his gavel poised, his eyes cold as ice. "Let me be clear, this bench isn't a stage. This gavel isn't a prop. The next soul to confuse either will feel the full weight of my power." The threat hangs, a fog settling over the stunned gallery, but each word widens the cracks. In his pedestal, a defiance that only fuels the blaze Elise has lit. Protesters outside chant louder, their voices seeping through the walls, a tide he can't silence, while inside his rulings grow sharper, his gavel slamming with a bitterness that betrays him. A man watching his reign slip through his fingers, too stubborn to see the storm. He's stoking. That evening, Elise meets Terrence and Marissa in a quiet corner of her office, their faces taut with resolve, their voices low but firm. "You're right," Marissa says, her tone steady. "He berates public defenders, overrules them to flex, hands out harsher sentences if anyone talks back even a whisper." Elise leans in, her gaze piercing. "Did you report it?" "Every time," Terrence replies, his jaw tight. "No response ever." Her jaw sets, a quiet fury simmering beneath her calm, her voice a vow cutting through the dim light. That ends now. She's not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for the shadows Harrigan's crushed, the voices he's silenced, and as the night deepens, the fire she's sparked burns brighter, a reckoning he can't outrun poised. To break over Denver like dawn over a darkened sea. Feel the ground tremble beneath a city waking to its own rage, where a single courtroom clash explodes into a wildfire that no walls can contain, its flames licking at the edges of power long thought untouchable. In Denver, Colorado, the Jefferson County Courthouse stands besieged, its gray stone facade dwarfed by a swelling crowd, protesters spilling onto the plaza, their signs a forest of defiance swaying in the October wind. Justice isn't a judge's plaything. Elise fights for us. The late afternoon sky darkens, clouds gathering like a jury over the chaos below, as Congresswoman Elise Morgan, 38, watches from her district office, her navy blazer shed, her sleeves rolled up, her dark eyes, tracing the headlines blazing across screens. Congresswoman's stand ignites firestorm. Her $500 contempt fine, a slap for a 12-minute delay tied to a congressional crisis, has morphed into a battle cry. Her words, "The real contempt is what happens here every day," a torch now burning through the city's silence, a spark she's fanned into a blaze threatening to consume Judge Victor Harrigan's reign. The courthouse steps swarm reporters shout over the chants, their cameras flashing like storm signals, capturing a movement that's outgrown its cradle. Inside, Harrigan's chambers pulse with a different storm, his 62-year-old frame pacing. A tight circle behind his mahogany desk, his furrowed brow etched with fury, his voice a growl slicing the air as his clerk, Dana, hovers near the door, her wide eyes darting nervously. "She thinks this'll unseat me?" He snaps, his fist slamming the desk, a stack of papers toppling like a house of cards. 30 years, 30 damn years, and she thinks a circus of whiners will take me down? His phone buzzes relentlessly. Judicial Conduct Commission, State, Bar, ignored as he glares at Dana. "They're still calling?" She nods, her voice a whisper lost in his rage. "The commission's pushing, they want your response by tomorrow." His eyes blaze, his hand snatching the unedited transcript. She'd fetched. "Let 'em wait, I'll bury this in paper they can't wade through." Outside, the tide surges, protesters swell, their chants a heartbeat pulsing through the streets. "We see you, Elise," while news vans clog the curb, headlines screaming, "Judge's contempt clash goes viral." Elise's stand has struck a nerve. Her press statement, "This isn't about me, it's about those without shields." A clarion call that's lit up phones and screens. Hashtags like Harrigan hammered and Justice Not Ego trending as activists, lawyers, and everyday folks amplify. Her voice. In her office, the war room churns, laptops hum, coffee cups pile. Her team a symphony of purpose orbiting her steady core. "We've got patterns," Terrence says, his voice sharp, his screen glowing with data. "Dismissed motions, overruled objections. Harrigan's got a spike with young defendants, especially minorities." Rachel glances up, her phone alight. "Nationals all in CNN's booking you tonight. We've got traction." Elise nods, her resolve a steel thread. "We frame it Harrigan's a symptom, not the disease. We go live." That night she faces studio lights on national TV, her voice steady across from a seasoned anchor, her dark eyes piercing the lens. "I didn't challenge Harrigan because I'm a politician. I challenged him as a lawyer, a black woman who's seen unchecked power crush the vulnerable," she says, her tone unflinching, a quiet thunder rolling through homes nationwide. "He fined me $500, that's nothing to me. But he's levied life-altering punishments on people who can't fight back. That's the contempt we're ending." The clip goes viral before the credits roll, a blaze spreading as Twitter erupts, civil rights coalitions retweeting, public defenders across the country nodding in grim recognition, a spark now, a wildfire, burning toward Harrigan's throne. Inside the courthouse, he doubles down, his afternoon session a defiant stand, his black robe a cloak of fading power, his voice cold as he glares at the room. "This courtroom's decorum was undermined by grandstanding," he declares, his gavel slamming. "The next fool to test me will feel my full authority." The threat lands, a fog over the gallery, but each slam widens the cracks protesters. Outside grow louder, their voices seeping through, a tide he can't dam. Then a misstep 22-year-old Leon Vasquez stands before him, charged with disorderly conduct. No priors, his lawyer's dismissal motion waved off without cause. Leon raises a hand. "Sir, I didn't even—" Harrigan cuts him off, his eyes blazing. "Another word and it's contempt." Leon's lawyer whispers silence, but Harrigan snarls. 30 days in county, maybe that'll teach you manners." Gasps ripple. A curse hissed from the back, and Elise, seated silently in the gallery, freezes, her pen stilling on her notepad as the injustice unfolds before her. Her aide texts the moment to Rachel. He did it again, and the spark flares anew. The video leaking before she reaches the elevator. A fresh wave crashing over Denver's airwaves. Harrigan, oblivious, presses on gavel slamming, voices raised. Dismissals denied, but the dominoes fall faster now. State legislators murmur of inquiries. The Judicial Council calls an emergency session. The bar contacts former defendants. And Elise's office floods with accounts horror stories of Harrigan's wrath. A clerk's leak. "He gave me 30 days for asking for my lawyer. I was 19. She's not alone. Terrence and Marissa unearth transcripts, patterns of bias stacking like bricks in a wall she's building. A case not just against one man, but a system he's come to symbolize. A fire she's lit that's burning toward a reckoning he can't outlast. Feel the air crackle with the weight of a reckoning unleashed, where a courtroom's oak walls tremble under the strain of a storm too fierce to contain, and every gavel strike rings like a bell tolling its own demise. In Denver, Colorado, the Jefferson County Courthouse stands as a fortress buckling under siege, its gray stone facade dwarfed by a swelling tide of protesters spilling across the plaza, their voices a relentless chant, "Justice isn't fear." Their signs slashing the October sky, "No more silence, Elise leads the way." Inside, the echoes of Congresswoman Elise Morgan's clash with Judge Victor Harrigan have erupted into a wildfire, her $500 contempt fine a petty jab for a 12-minute delay now a rallying cry that's torn through the city's quiet. Her words, "The real contempt is what happens here every day." A torch lighting up shadows long ignored. At 38, Elise has turned a traffic glitch into a crusade, her dark eyes a beacon as she stands at the heart of a movement she didn't seek but won't shirk, her navy blazer a banner of defiance in a fight that's grown far beyond her. The courthouse. Buzz's reporters swarm the steps, their cameras flashing like storm signals, capturing a city waking to its own fury. While inside, Harrigan's afternoon session unfolds like a desperate stand. The judge, 62, strides to the bench, his black robe a tattered cloak of fading power, his furrowed brow etched with a rage that's lost its edge. His voice cuts through the gallery, cold and sharp as he glares at the room. "This morning's decorum was undermined by grandstanding," he declares, his gavel slamming with a force that rattles the benches. "The next fool to test me will feel my full authority." The threat lands, a fog over the stunned onlookers, but each word widens the cracks in his pedestal. Protesters outside grow louder, their chants seeping through the walls, a tide he can't dam, their signs a forest of truth he can't uproot. Then, a misstep shatters the illusion. 22-year-old Leon Vasquez stands before him, a wiry young man with no priors charged with disorderly conduct over a scuffle at a bar, his lawyer's dismissal motion waved off without a glance. Leon raises a trembling hand. "Sir, I didn't even—" Harrigan cuts him off, his eyes blazing like embers. Another word, and it's contempt. Leon's lawyer, a young public defender, whispers for silence, but the boy's voice cracks. Harrigan snarls, his gavel crashing down. 30 days in county, maybe that'll teach you manners." Gasps ripple through the gallery, a curse hissed from the back, and Elise, seated silently in the last row, freezes, her pen stilling on her notepad as the injustice unfolds a mirror to her own clash, a wound too raw to ignore. Her aide, Rachel, texts the moment to their media contact. He did it again, and the spark flares. A video leaking before Elise reaches the elevator, a fresh blaze roaring through Denver's airwaves. Outside, the fire spreads, protesters swell. There, chants a heartbeat. "We see you, Elise." While news vans clog the streets, headlines screaming, "Judge jails youth in contempt outburst." Inside, Harrigan presses on, oblivious his gavel slams. Voices rise, dismissals fall like hammers, but the dominoes tumble faster now. State legislators murmur of inquiries. The Judicial Council calls an emergency session. The bar contacts former defendants, and Elise's office floods with accounts, horror stories of Harrigan's wrath piling up like kindling. "He gave me 30 days for asking for my lawyer. I was 19, one email reads. A clerk's leak among dozens, each a brick in a wall she's building. A case not just against one man, but a system he's come to embody. In her war room, Terrence unearths transcripts, patterns of bias stacking high, while Rachel fields national calls, her voice steady. "CNN's live tonight, your slot's confirmed." That night, Elise faces the cameras, her voice a quiet thunder under studio lights, her dark eyes piercing the lens. "I didn't challenge Harrigan as a politician, I challenged him as a lawyer. A black woman who's seen power crush the defenseless," she says, unflinching, a truth rolling through homes nationwide. "He fined me $500 a slap for me, but he's handed out life-altering punishments to those who can't fight back. That's the contempt we're ending." The clip goes viral, a blaze igniting Twitter, just Harrigan hammered. Justice not ego as coalitions amplify her call. A wildfire she's stoked into a movement too vast to quench. Back at the courthouse, Harrigan doubles staff, beefs up security, bans reporters from his halls, his defiance a crumbling wall against a tide he can't hold. In her office, Elise meets Terrence and Marissa, their faces taut with resolve, their voices low. He berates defenders, overrules to flex, punishes pushback even a whisper. Marissa says, her tone steady. Reported it every time, no response. Terrence adds, his jaw tight. Elise's gaze hardens, her voice a vow. That ends now. She's not alone, the flood of accounts grows. A former clerk's records in her hands. A case building brick by brick. A spark, now a firestorm poised to burn Harrigan's empire to ash as Denver watches, breathless, waiting for the fall. Steppin' into a hearing chamber where the air hums with the weight of judgment, where oak walls groan under the strain of truths too long buried, and a single voice can shift the scales of a system teetering on collapse. In Denver, Colorado, the Jefferson County Courthouse stands as a battlefield, its gray stone facade dwarfed by a city ablaze with protest hundreds gathered outside, their signs a chorus of defiance slashing the October sky. Justice isn't a throne, Elise speaks truth. Inside, the Judicial Conduct Commission's emergency session unfolds, a stark room of polished wood and muted light where Judge Victor Harrigan, 62, sits at the respondent's table, his black robe swapped for a gray suit, his furrowed brow etched with a defiance that's begun to crack. Congresswoman Elise Morgan, 38, enters early, not as a defendant or a spectator but as a witness, her navy blazer a quiet banner, her dark eyes steady as she takes her seat in the back, her presence a signal that sends a shiver through the chamber. Harrigan glances her way, brief, sharp, a flicker of unease breaking his mask, but she doesn't flinch, her gaze a steel thread weaving through the room, her notepad resting in her lap like a sword sheathed, but ready. The panel, 5 stone-faced commissioners, sits in judgment, their folders thick with evidence as the hearing begins, a dam breaking under the weight of years. Former public defenders take the stand, their voices steady but raw. Terrence recounts erratic rulings. Marissa details open disdain for younger attorneys. A Latina lawyer recalls a dismissed motion with Harrigan's sneer, "Save your dramatics for immigration court." 2 clerks read memos, Harrigan's own words. "Kids need a good scare." Each testimony a brick in a wall closing around him. The gallery hushed, the commissioner's pens scratching like a jury's verdict taking shape. Elise watches, her breath steady, her pen still as the morning's clash replays in her mind Harrigan's $500 fine, his mocking "entertain us," her stand, "You'll keep bullying those who can't fight back." That spark has flared into this a firestorm she's stoked with data, transcripts, accounts flooding her office, horror stories of Harrigan's wrath piling up like kindling. "He gave me 30 days for asking for my lawyer. I was 19. Now, She rises for her turn. The silence turns electric, every eye swiveling to her as she swears in, her voice a quiet thunder cutting through the hush. "I'm Elise Morgan," she begins, her tone steady, unflinching. "And I'm here not for a personal grievance, but to point to a pattern." She recounts her hearing the contempt charge, the mockery, the bias masked as protocol, her words precise, a scalpel slicing through Harrigan's crumbling facade. "I've spoken with defendants he's sentenced, attorneys who feared retaliation, clerks forced to stay silent," she continues, her dark eyes locking onto the panel, her presence a force that fills the room. What does it say about our courts when justice is feared more than crime? Harrigan's attorney objects her tone, her scope, but the panel overrules. Their faces unyielding as she finishes without notes. No dramatics, just truth, a truth that lands like a gavel's final strike. The room erupts, not in cheers, but in a relieved silence. A pressure valve released as Harrigan's lead counsel fumbles, his gray suit creasing with every failed rebuttal. The panel announces a temporary suspension pending review. a crack widening into a chasm as Harrigan's face flushes, his fists clenching, a titan watching his throne splinter beneath him. Outside, the fire rages, protesters swell, their chants a heartbeat. "We see you, Elise," while news vans clog the streets, headlines screaming, "Judge suspended after contempt clash." Back in her office, Elise turns the spark into steel. Her team compiles evidence. A coalition of civil rights attorneys joins, digging through hundreds of Harrigan's cases, their findings a flood. Disproportionate sentencing, dismissed motions, 42 contempt charges against youths for minor pushback. 3 days later, an emergency audit seals his fate, consistent bias confirmed, his removal permanent, a bench toppled by the weight of its own excess. But Elise doesn't stop her war room hums. Her bill, the Courtroom Accountability and Fairness Enforcement Act, CAFE, gains traction, a bipartisan push for bias training, oversight, and community review boards, a legacy born from a $500 fine, now poised to reshape Colorado's courts. The city shifts, protesters cheer, legislators rally, the fire she's lit burning toward reform as Harrigan's empire crumbles, his defiance a ghost in a courtroom no longer his. Elise stands at the edge of it all, her resolve a quiet flame, a woman who didn't just fight for herself but for the silenced, her voice a spark that's tipped the scales, a reckoning too fierce to fade. Imagine a city reborn from the embers of a fallen empire, where the air hums with the quiet triumph of voices once silenced, and the dawn breaks over a landscape forever changed by a single, unyielding spark. In Denver, Colorado, the Jefferson County Courthouse stands as a relic of a battle won, its gray stone facade softened by the golden light of a late October morning. The echoes of Judge Victor Harrigan's reign now a fading whisper against the chants that have reshaped its halls. The streets pulse with a new rhythm. Protesters have dwindled to a steadfast few, their signs still swaying. Justice isn't a gavel's game. Elise lit the way while inside. The courtroom, once dubbed Harrigan's hammer, lies quiet. Its oak benches empty, its gavel still. A throne toppled by a $500 fine that Congresswoman Elise Morgan, 38, turned into a firestorm. Her dark eyes, once locked on Harrigan's sneer, now shine with a resolve that's carved a legacy from chaos. Her navy blazer a symbol of a fight she didn't start, but finished with a strength that's shifted the scales. Harrigan's fall is complete. His 62-year-old reign ended by an emergency audit. His bench stripped after the Judicial Conduct Commission's verdict. Disproportionate sentencing, bias confirmed, 42 contempt charges against youths for minor defiance. His permanent removal, announced days after Elise's testimony, leaves a void, his chambers silent, his staff scattered, his defiance a ghost haunting a courtroom he can no longer claim. Once, he'd paced behind his mahogany desk, snarling, "She thinks this'll unseat me." His gavel a scepter he wielded with unchecked fury. Now that fury's a memory. His 30 years of judicial authority crumbled under the weight of transcripts, testimonies, and a viral clip. Elise is steady. He's handed out life-altering punishments to those who can't fight back. A truth that broke his throne and set Denver ablaze. Outside, the city shifts, protesters cheer, their voices a fading echo, while inside, his legacy lies in ashes. A titan felled by a spark he couldn't snuff. Elise stands at the heart of it, her Denver district office a quiet fortress where the fire she's lit burns toward a future she's vowed to shape. The Courtroom Accountability and Fairness Enforcement Act, CAFE. Her bill, born from that $500 fine, has passed the House and Senate, signed into law amid a press conference where she honored the silenced. This is for those who couldn't fight back. The legislation, a mandate for bias training, oversight boards, and community audits, marks a first in Colorado history. A courtroom under public watch, a model rippling to other states. Her war room, once a hive of laptops and coffee cups, now hums with a steady purpose. Terrence Stack's final reports, Rachel Field's calls from national outlets, the blaze she's stoked, a beacon that's turned a personal clash into a systemic reckoning. A mural rises on a legal aid center downtown Elise outside the courthouse, scales in one hand, door open in the other, words bold beneath. Justice isn't earned in silence, it's demanded in presence. A symbol she didn't seek but embodies, a testament to a fight that's grown beyond her. The morning after the bill's signing, Elise steps onto her office balcony, the city sprawling beneath a sky streaked with dawn's first light, her navy blazer draped over a chair, her dark hair loose in the breeze. Her phone buzzes Rachel. CNN wants a follow-up your call, but she lets it sit, her gaze tracing the horizon where Denver wakes to a new day, its pulse quickened by a truth she's unearthed. She didn't plan this a traffic glitch, a clerical error, a 12-minute delay, but when Harrigan's gavel struck her, "You'll keep bullying those who can't fight back," struck harder, a spark that flared into a movement she's carried with a lawyer's precision and a black woman's fire. The Cafe Act is law, but it's more. Hundreds of accounts flood her office, former clerks leak records, defendants share horrors. "He gave me 30 days for asking for my lawyer. I was 19. Each story a brick in a wall she's built, a legacy. Not of vengeance, but of voices lifted from the dark. Back at the courthouse, Harrigan's absence is a wound, his bench a ghost, his staff gone, his defiance a memory drowned by the tide he couldn't stem. Protesters have thinned, but their signs remain, their chants a heartbeat fading into history. We see you, Elise. While legislators rally, the Judicial Council digs into other courts, and the bar unearths past wrongs, a firestorm he fueled. With his own hammer now burning beyond his reach. Elise's testimony, "What does it say when justice is feared more than crime?" rings in the panel's ears. A quiet thunder that toppled him, a truth that shifted Denver's pulse. The Cafe Act's first oversight board convenes former judges, public defenders, community advocates, a courtroom under watch. A crack in a system she's vowed to mend. She returns to the courthouse one last time, not as a defendant, not a witness, but a woman who's seen the fight through, standing silently in the back as a new judge takes the bench, her notepad closed. Her presence, a quiet vow. Harrigan's fall is hers, but not hers alone. It's Leon Vasquez's, jailed for 30 days over a whisper. It's the 19-year-old's, punished for a plea. It's every shadow he crushed. The city moves on, protesters fade, headlines shift, but the fire she's lit burns steady. A legacy of courage carved from a $500 fine. A spark that's become a blaze reshaping justice one courtroom at a time. A truth that stands tall when the ashes settle. A dawn she's forged for those who'll never face Harrigan's hammer again.